Someone who has been very visible during this state election campaign is none other than Wally the Platypus, who is a spokesperson, or rather a spokesmarsupial, even a spokesmonitoring, to be very technically correct, for the Wilderness Society. Now, Wally has been seen out and about, generally following Campbell Newman, the LNP leader, around. Now, on Thursday, I happened to film Wally being escorted by police out of the convention centre where he was trying to disrupt an LNP lunch. Now, on the basis of that, the Wilderness Society contacted me and offered me an exclusive interview with Wally the Platypus. I replied saying yes, but only if you would let me use a Muppet to interview him. They said, "You're on." And so now I find myself in the unusual position of interviewing a platypus with a puppet. Hi. This is Schmo for no other reason than that's a name that came into my head. So, hello Schmo. Hi everyone. Hi Wally.
Hi Schmo.
So, let's start by asking Wally. Schmo, first question. Okay. Why do you hate Campbell Newman?
Well, I don't hate Campbell Newman at all. In fact, I love hugging him. The problem I have is that he wants to take away protection of wild rivers from mining development. I'm very unhappy and I'm very worried about this.
All right, so wild rivers, for those who may not know, is about protecting very, very pristine river systems in remote parts of Queensland. That sounds complicated. It's complicated for me, and I think a lot of people don't understand why it's necessary. So from the Wilderness Society's point of view, why are these rivers so in need of protection?
Well, in Queensland we are so lucky to have lots of very intact wild rivers left. Many around the world are destroyed from dams and pollution from mining, but in Queensland we have some very good wild rivers. So we want to ensure that any development that occurs in those river systems occurs in a responsible way, like keeping mining set back from the rivers and the wetlands and keeping dams out of the rivers. That's all Wild Rivers does.
Now, the LNP has teamed up with Noel Pearson, who's a very high-profile Indigenous leader, and a number of others who believe that Wild Rivers is actually detrimental to a lot of Indigenous communities. They think that it is stopping Indigenous communities from having the choice of their own destiny and allowing activities such as aquaculture along some of those areas. So what do you have to say to that, Wally?
Well,
good question. I know I researched that one.
Well, Schmo, a lot of those claims from Noel Pearson and others just aren't true. You can have aquaculture in these wild river areas. You can do cattle grazing, you can build houses and roads. You just can't mine right next to the river. You can't build dams right in the river. That's all Wild Rivers does. There's been a big misinformation campaign. And I do have to say, Noel Pearson is one voice. There are many Indigenous voices that support Wild Rivers and want to see these beautiful areas protected from inappropriate mining development.
And one of the other reasons I wanted to bring Schmo along, that's me, today was to make an obvious allegorical link between the fact that Schmo is a puppet, she's got a hand up my fundamental, and the fact that a lot of people against Wild Rivers say that basically the government is being the puppet of the Wilderness Society and that Wild Rivers was only developed to be basically to get Greens preferences, particularly among urban southeast Queensland voters who perhaps aren't as aware of what life is like in some of these remote regions.
Well, it's very simple. Wild Rivers, the legislation just protects our most beautiful river systems from bad mining development, dams and industrial activities. These are really special rivers. There are even jobs that goes with Wild Rivers. There are 50 Indigenous people employed to look after these rivers. I think that's something that many Queenslanders support.
So finally, what do you have planned for the last week of campaigning? Will you get out and support Anna Bligh at all? Because it does seem your campaign is a bit one-sided, or will you continue to pursue Campbell Newman?
Well, our campaign is all about protecting wild rivers. Unfortunately, it's Campbell Newman who said that he will tear up the protection of these wild rivers, and that is just such a very worrying prospect for me and all of my fellow species. I just want Campbell Newman to promise that he will protect wild rivers for mining development, dams and industrial development. That's all Wild Rivers does, and that's what we need to happen.
Well, I think we can all say that this has been the strangest interview, but at the same time, your lips have been moving all through it. Well, yes, my lips have been moving, but that's because I'm technically a journalist and not a ventriloquist. You should become a media advisor. That was my best joke. Wally, any closing statements? Yeah.
I'd just like to say, Campbell Newman, please protect our wild rivers. Protect my wild rivers, keep them clean and pure. Protect my wild rivers, Mr. Newman. Protect my wild rivers, keep them flowing free. It's a nice song.
Yes, it is. And thank you very much. Let's end with, I guess, a Campbell Newman favourite, the platypus hug.
Oh, thanks, Schmo.
Thank you. State Campaign Manager of the Wilderness Society, Tim Seelig. The fact that we've just done an interview featuring a person in a platypus costume and a puppet, what does this say about the state of political discourse in Queensland?
Well, at one level, it's clearly gone totally berserk, and we've all had too much of election reporting already. At another level, I think it's fantastic fun.